We're in Daf Nun Amud Aleph, 13 lines at the top, with the two dots in Maseches Gittin, the Bavli. Omer Marzuta Breder of Nachman, Rav Nachman. Marzuta, the son of Rav Nachman, said in the name of Rav Nachman, Shtar Choy Vayitzal Yisomim. If you have a bill of debt that wants to be collected and there's Yisomim involved, in other words, the father took a loan. When the time comes to pay, he passed away, and his estate is in the hands of his orphan. Even if there was a tanai, there was a condition, there was a stipulation there, which said that the debtor, the person who's owed the debt, will be able to collect from idis, so will be able to collect from the best of his property. He's only going to be allowed to take from the worst of the property, in line with the general din that the Yisoimim only get from ziburis. That if you're collecting from Yisoimim, you're only going to get from ziburis. Omer Abaya said, Teda the Balchoiv din ebebenenis. Miyas maybe ziburis. Abaya is agreeing with this din of Marzuta Breder Nachman, and he brings a proof. We see that a Balchoiv din ebebenenis, his din is that he's supposed to get benenis. He's supposed to get benenis. So that you shouldn't close the door in front of those who are borrowing. So the Chum instituted that he gets benenis. But nevertheless, from Yisoibim, he's going to get ziburis. So too here, even if there's a Tanai with Shevach, there's a condition that he should get the Idis. If he's collecting from the Yisoibim, he's only going to get the ziburis. Rava says like this: how can you compare? Balchoiv din midaraisa beziburis. Midaraisa, what is a balchoiv supposed to get ziburis? The worst.
I'm just coming in. Where are you?
Oh, we're up to.
Somebody's calling you.
Omalei Rava.
What afternoon?
Go call mommy, okay? We're on Daf Nun Amud Aleph.
Yeah.
We're on Daf Nun Amud Aleph. 18 lines, about 20 lines in the top of the page. The line starts Hochiyash. So we just said that a Baal Choiv requires a Baal Choiv gets paid with ziburis. We just said that a Baal Choiv. No.
Is that the line that starts at Baal Chov Biziburis? Is that what the line starts? 2
lines above that Hochiyash. So we said that if you have a Shtar Choiv, that there's a Tanai that you're supposed to get the Idis, nevertheless, if he's collecting from the Yisoimim, he only gets Ziburis. And Abai said, we see also by a Baal Choiv, even though he's supposed to get Benedis, he's only going to get Ziburis. And we're not getting into Nizokin yet, damages. So Rava says like this: how can you compare? Baal Choiv didn't be deraisa with ziburis. Midaraisa Baal Choiv is supposed to get ziburis. Like Ula says, it says that you stand outside and he'll take out to pay you whatever he wants. Tosfos points out that there it's talking about metaltalin, and any type of metaltalin is considered idis. But nevertheless, so too with, we'll learn from here. So too with karka, if he's going to pay with karka, it's up to him. We see from the Torah, it's up to him to repay with whatever he wants. But Dr. Shalish Leitzi Fachas Shabbakim is going to give you the worst of his stuff. He's not going to give you his high quality stuff. What's the reason why the Chum upgraded the Baal Chayv to receive Beidinis? In order not to close the door in front of those who are borrowing. By the Yisoimim, the Chachamim re-established the din which is their Raisa. Now, in this case, given the din of the Raisa B'idis, according to Rava, it's Midaraisa B'idis. Filim Yas may not be B'idis. Even from the Yisoimim, you'll also get Idis. If there's a T'nai, then we'll say even from the Yisoimim, you'll also get Idis. If it says that he's supposed to get Shevach. Rashi says he guarantees. A T'nai is like a guarantee. Just like it says that Yehuda guaranteed to his father that he's going to bring Binyamin back. That we see was in the Torah. So to any T'nai is Midaraisa. So that's Rava. Mashenk and Tosfos says, according to Abai, he holds it's not deraisa. Why not? He doesn't explain why not. So we have Machlokes Abai and Rava, or Marzutra and Rava. If you have a Tanai in the star that you're supposed to get Idis, the best, do you collect that from the Yisoimim or not? According to Marzutra, you do. You do not. You're going to collect ziburis. I'm sorry, you're going to take the ziburis. According to Rava, now you'll still get idis. It seems like the halacha is you get you're going to get ziburis. Halacha is not like Rava. That's what it seems like. Even though usually we pass on like Rava Rabbi, maybe here also it's Marzutra, so it's different. So now the Gemara asks like this. According to Rava, how could Rava say that this is an exception that you're going to get from the, in this case, you're going to get from the Idis? The Avram Chayzah taught, that if we're talking about Nixi, you get from the Ziburis, even if it's Nizokin, even if we're talking about damages, you're going to get from the Nixi Yisayim from Ziburis. So now the Gemara interjects. But Nizokin didn't mean the Raisa beat this. How could you say that you're going to get from the Yisayim with the Ziburis if when it comes to Nizokin, it's Mamish Midaraisa? It's clearly Deraisa. Meitav Sadeu. It says in the Torah, you pay from the best of your field. So what's the shaila? What's the question? Gemara answers, that if we're talking about nizik, nizokin, everyone will agree that we're going to, even the Yisayim will have to pay with idis. That's what Torah says. Here we're talking about if the idis of the nizik was like the ziburis of the mazik. Your ziburis was like his idis. The damagers, the person who had damaged, his ziburis is like the idis of the nizik. The person was damaged. But Rabbi Shmuel, this brisa of Avram Chayzah, it's interesting that his name was Avram, not Avraham. Now, usually you would think you would name the person Avram with a hey, not Avram. It's called Avram. Interesting. It's Rabbi Yishmael. Midaraisa, we evaluate based on the nizik. So based on Rabbi Yishmael, he really only has to pay ziburis. Because of the tikkun oilam, Chum established that the mazik should give his idis his best. By either Yisayim, the Chachamim will establish it on the din deraisa, which is back down to his ziburis, which is like the idis of the nizik, the idis of the person who was damaged. So the Gemara asks the question: Any is that so? I don't know why it's what Niyuso means. Part of his name, but I'm not sure. Was it his name? Is it where he was from? Is it a description? You only get paid from the Nichsi Yisayim from the Ziburit Vafilu Hein Idis. Even if it's Idis. So now we're asking on Rava. How could Rava say that if there's an Idis in the Shtar, you're going to get the Idis? Rabbi Eliezer Nusal says you only take from the estate of the Yisayim, from the property of the Yisayim, if it's Ziburis, and even if it's Idis, my afilu and Idis by Vavagav, the Idis Mishtar, probably is talking about that there's Idis written in the Shtar. Nevertheless, he says he has a brisa which holds you only take from the Ziburis. So Raya for Abaya against Rava, Raya for Marzutra. Even if there's a Tanai in the Shtar, afilu and Idis. Says the Gemara, Loi Ma'idis, Shva Yidis, we'll go like Rashi's Taich. Rashi says, if the guy had Idis to pay him back, and then it got ruined, now he had really good property, and then it got damaged, his best property. So what does he do? Does he give still from his very good property, or now it's considered like a regular Baal Chayv? The Rava, like Rava says, Damar Rava, hizik ziburis. If you damage ziburis, if you cause damage to ziburis, give him an idis. Then the guy collects from the idis. Doesn't matter what you damage, he collects from the idis. From the mazik idis. That's the Takanas Chacham according to Rabbi Shmuel. Shvoy idis, but if your idis got ruined, give him in a beinanis. You pay it like a regular loan, which is beinanis. Because we'll say it's your mazel, it's your problem. I had idis. It's your mazel that it got ruined before I had a chance to give it to you. We're talking about obviously the property got like very badly damaged. Otherwise, like what's the problem? Must be it was flooded or something, whatever. Like by the Yisayim, because we're talking about a Baal Chayv, now it turns into Baal Chayv. No longer midaraisa, you're gonna have to pay the idis because it got ruined. We're gonna rely on the din deraisa, which a Baal Chayv pays ziburis. So only in such a case are we going to say that he paid ziburis if the idis that he had ready to pay him got ruined? But if there's a t'nai in the star that he has to pay you this, he has to pay you this. Doesn't matter. Maybe even if it got ruined, but that's not the same case. I'll pay from his other idis.
Why would the Baal Chayiv, not the Baal, why would he even want Edis that got ruined?
No, he wants his other idis. Rashi says he has idis. He had really, really good stuff, the very best. That got ruined, but he still has good stuff. Still has idis. Does he have to give from his other idis? No. Because he had idis, his very best got ruined. He goes down, he could give him only his bananus, even though he has idis remaining, other idis remaining. Rashi calls it idis. Okay, we're now on the bottom by the two dots, a new sugya. So there's a big, the Gemara ends off with the Maseches in a Rava, or Mazut and Rava. If there's a t'nai in the star that he's supposed to get idis, does he take from idis from the Yisayimim or ziburis? According to Mazut and Abai, he takes from ziburis. According to Rava, he takes from idis because it's like a derais. Next case, any from nichsi Yisayim elamini ziburis. You take from the nichsi Yisayim ziburis. The Gemara, that's from the Mishnah. The Mishnah was on Daf Mem Chesam and Beis. Gemara asks, "Boy Rava Chadvoi Barami." When we say that you get paid from the Yisayim, is it only Yisayim or Ktanim? Because we're taking care of the Yisayim or Ktanim, or even Gedolim? So this is the question. He explains the question. Takanti dover Rabbanon Gabi Yasmei, the Ktanim over Rabbanon Gedolim Liyav. But this is a special takan of the Chachamim for Yisayim, so it will only be for Ktanim, not for Gedolim. Or maybe the reason is nothing to do with the Kanos Chachamim. The whole reason why we established that a Baal Chayiv is supposed to get benedis is because Shalei Sinel Delis B'nei Levin, so that people want to lend money. The Malva is never going to think the misloiv that the loiv is going to die. And then the nechasim will fall in front of the Yisayim. Bavli Noel Delis is not considered Noel Delis. Therefore, even Gedolim also, because it's not a Tekaz Chab, it's just because there's no problem of Shalei Sinel Delis. He doesn't think that the guy will die. And then it'll be in other words, as long as the guy's alive, the Chum were established that that's a regular case, that you should pay Benedis in order for him to lend the guy money. But if he dies, then because that's it's interesting, like it's interesting logic. Because it's an unusual case, they're adrabah. We're no longer going to have the Takanos Chachamim to make it a Benedis. And we'll say it's not the Yosim is a different person, so it's the same estate, but a different person, so we'll revert to the original Din Deraisa. The Chacham will take away their takana to give him Beinaniss, and it will revert to the Din Deraisa because it's a different person. And we don't have the issue of Shalei Sinel Delis B'nei Levin.
What's the argument between whether the Yosim is a katan or a gadol?
If it's a takana to help the Yisayimim, Chayil Chum will only want to help the Ketanim because they're the Ketanim. They're helpless. But Gedolim, why would they want to? They can fend for themselves. They should pay the Beitis. If it's because the Adarab, the Takanas Chum to protect the Malva falls away and when it reverts to the Din Deraisa, then we'll revert to Din Deraisa for anyone who's a different person, whether Gedolim or Ketanim. So now the Gemara brings a Raya. Toshma coming here. The Tanya Abayik Shisha. Abayik Shisha taught Yisayim Shamru Gedolim and Tzachlim Ketanim. Gedolim and Ketanim. So we see clearly it's for both of them. Maybe it's only to require the person who's getting paid to make a shavua. The God he's like a katan because he doesn't know exactly what happened with his father. So the guy who wants to get paid from the father's estate will have to make a shavua. Just like if the father was around and he said, make an oath, and they didn't pay you, the guy's going to have to make an oath. Automatically, by Yisrael, you have to make an oath, whether they're Gedolim or Ketanim, because they don't know the difference. So the Gemara goes on and says like this. When it comes to paying, we will differentiate between Gedolim and Ketanim. The halacha is same shamu Gedolim Tzachlim Ketanim ben l'shvua ben l'ziburis, both for shvua and for ziburis. Anyone who wants to get paid from them will have to make an oath, and if he wants to take something from them, it will always have to be ziburis. If we're talking about a regular milvo, nizokin is different, obviously. That's the way we learn. Unless your ziburis is like the idus of the nizik, then there's room for leniency to say to give your ziburis. Okay, zog die Gemara weiter. We don't get paid back from the chasam mishubadim. So we're moving on from the sugya of Yisoimim, and now we're talking about something else. We're talking about getting paid. If you're getting paid, you don't get repaid your debt from the chasim mishubadim, from property that the person who owes you money sold. Rather, you're going to get paid back from the chasim, which is b'nei chayre. What asks a shayla, boy, Rabba Chadvoi Barami. Rabba Chadvoi Barami asks the question, but matona heyach. What would be the din if you gave it as a gift? In other words, what's going on here? What's the takana? Is it to protect the people who actually spent money? So therefore, matana we wouldn't protect the guy. He got it as a gift, so he'll lose it. The guy has a debt. He gave a gift. You know, you have these huge guys who give tons of tzedakah, and then you find out later, oh, he didn't really have that kind of money. He just kind of gave tzedakah because he was, I don't want to say he was, in this case, we're not talking about he's a thief. He owed money. So maybe matana, maybe first take from the b'nei chayrim, but before you take from the guy who made a matana. No, so maybe take from the guy who had a matana, just like you'll take from the property that he hadn't sold. Doesn't matter. Maybe he doesn't have any claim. Or maybe he does have a claim. So we'll see it in the Gemara. I shouldn't compare it to the other cases. I would give a bad example. It's a special takon of the chachamim because we don't want the lekoichas, the buyers, to lose out their money, and then they're going to have to schlep in bezin and try to seize the other property. So we just say lechatchila, take from the chasam neicharin for the property that hasn't been sold yet. But a gift that there's no loss, no. A dilma matana nami, maybe also a gift. There's a certain the guy gives him certain. If you're giving gifts to someone, he obviously gives you a certain amount of value. If you're not getting benefit from him, he's not going to have given you the matana. He'll keep saying the lukuchazam. It's considered like the loss of the lukuches. So what will be the din? Do we say matana is like nechasim, which are mishubadim, which are sold? It's interesting. Kshisha, I think, means old. That's an interesting name. Markshisha Breda of Chisel of Asi. Toshma coming here wants to give a raya. So the raya is by a shchiv merab. We want to compare it to a regular case also. What's the case? If you have a shchiv merab, shomer tenu masayim zuz lefleini, v'gim umeis lefleini, v'dal meis lefleini. If he says to give 200 zuz to so and so, 300 to so and so, and 400 to so and so, you can only imagine how the guy who's only getting 200 zuz feels. He's getting less than the other guy. So who gets first? We don't say that whoever was mentioned first in the shtar tzavo, he gave a shtar tzavo, like a will, is like that. Because he didn't say first him and after him. He just said, give him 200, him 300. He can't say it all at once. So he happened to have said in this order, but it doesn't mean necessarily that this is the order. So obviously, if he doesn't have enough money, it's not like the last guy's going to lose. There's no order here. There's no specific order. So what happens if if the guy has a debt? If there's a debt against him, he collects from all of them equally. Rashi explains how you do it. Let's say the guy's owed $100. You divide 100 into 9. What's 100 divided by 9?
100 divided by 9, 18 and something.
Wait, Baruch said 11. I think I'll go with Baruch.
11. It's 11, right?
100 divided by 9 equals 11. Yeah, 11.11. So you divide 100 into 9, and he gets paid 11.11 from each. Let's say the guy, Rashi gives an example. Let's say the guy, he gives an easy, obviously in real life, it's not going to be so simple, but this is how you do the math. Let's say the guy had 11, he had $900 and he owes $100. And he divided his $900, 200, 300, and 400, right? That's 900. And the $100 has to be repaid. How is he going to repay it? So the guy who got 400 is going to pay 11.11 from each one of his hundreds, and so on. He has 900, so you take 11.11 from each of the hundreds. So the guy with 400 is going to pay 44.44, whatever. The guy who has 300 is going to pay 33.33, and the guy who has 200 is going to pay 22.22. And that way, they're all divided equally. If we would say there's an order, so the guy who has the guy who got it last, the 400, the guy who got the 400 last, is gonna have to pay everything, the whole 100. But because we say there's no order, he's gonna take from all of them equally.
Well, what happens to the remaining one? 9 times 11 is 99, right? So there's one left over.
Oh no, you do. I just said 0.11, 11.11. Yeah, it's a good question. What if it's impossible to divide equally? What do you do with the extra penny? I don't know. It's a good question.
Rashi doesn't say.
No, he doesn't say. If something is impossible to divide it equally, what do you do? I don't know. He doesn't say.
It's not, you're not talking equally, you're talking about proportionally.
What?
You're dividing it proportionally.
Oh, right, proportionally. Saying, but it doesn't divide.
Sorry.
100 doesn't divide into 9 proportionally. Exactly. I'm saying it's like dividing something to 3. It's a good question. What do you do? I mean, I guess you divide it until it's less than a shava pruta, and then once it's less than a shava pruta, I don't see a problem. Okay, so the fichach yotzal b'shar gave him a kula, and you divide, you take from all of them. But if the shtibmara said to give 200 to this guy and only after it to so and so, so then first comes first serve. So on the one hand, the guy who's getting 200 is upset because he got the least, but at least he's getting first. The fichach yotzal b'shar, so if he has a debt, goiva mina achron. You take from the last guy. If the last guy doesn't have enough to pay the debt, so then you take the guy before him. And they gave him the shulfnei panav. If he doesn't have enough, then you take from the guy before him. So now this is a Gemara's analysis. What do we see? It depends on the order. And obviously here we're talking about a gift. We're not talking about a debt. He gave the guy a gift. Even though the first guy was Beinanis and the second guy was Ziburis, still we take Miziburis Govim Benis Legovi. We take from the Ziburis and not from the Beinanis. We take from the last guy who's Ziburis. So we see there's a Katana even from Matana, that we take from the last guy first, even if it's not the right type of property. Really, you're supposed to get from Beinanis.
I don't hear you, David.
Really? You don't hear me?
I hear you fine. It's on your side, David.
Even if.
Okay, that's better. I didn't hear for.
Right. Even if there's a. Sorry. Even if there's what's it called?
Remainder.
Even if the last guy doesn't have the right type of property, he has ziburis. The guy's supposed to be paid Beinanis. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He gets for the last guy first. That's what the Brisa says. That's what it sounds like. We can see the Chacham made the Tikkun even by gift. Says the Gemara Hacham my skin, and here what are we talking about? B'Baal Chayv. We're talking about. This is already Dachuk. This is already Dachuk. It's a little before us. And he says, we're talking about the Shchiv Merah wasn't giving a gift. He was repaying a loan. What do you mean? It says in the Brisa, he said to give. He's saying to give as my debt. If that's the case, look at whose star came first. If you're going to say that it was a loan. The Lakers started was a Milval pet. So that's why we say nobody comes before the other. We said whoever came first in the star, it means it was a star. We're talking about a star of the tzava, not a star of the loan. You could say we're talking about a matana, but not to say that if the last guy has ziburis.
Oh, we lost the sound.
We're talking about gifts. We're talking about gifts, but we're not saying that the guy who has ziburis you're gonna collect from the ziburis before the benedis. The last guy is gonna lose. So let's say the last guy has ziburis, right? And you have a debt. You are gonna take from the guy before him. You're gonna take from the benedis. But what's gonna happen? You took from the benedis. You took from intermediate property because you're owed money. There's no Yisayim here, obviously, where we're talking about that he gave it as a gift to some other people. So you're taking from the benedis. So what's the second guy gonna do? His property was taken away from him, but he has first rights before the third guy.
He's going to go to the third guy and collect.
You can take away from the third guy. That's what we mean. Not to say that you can't take from the guy who got the gift. You will take from the second guy, but he will in turn take it from the third guy. That's the way the Gemara will explains. Or we could say all the property is equal. The Brisa doesn't say anything about Beininus and Ziburis. That was the Gemara's analysis. There's no analysis there. All the property was equal. If it would be different, then Enochanami would be a different situation. However, it does seem, I didn't look it up, but it does seem the halacha is that the takana does apply to matana as well. That's what it seems like. That you will take from the last
say
one.
that again, the halacha.
That the halacha seems
Halacha is what?
the enactment the chum, this that the chum said to take only from the chassan property that's not sold and not property that's sold. And matana is also considered like property that's sold. That's what it seems like the halacha is. Okay, let's do at least one more piece. We're on the next two
Just
dots.
one question, that whole last part, I was just thinking, is that he's talking about the guys of Shchiv Mirah, and he gives matana to 3 people, and the Baal Chov comes and he collects from the people who he gave the matana. How do we know that the Shchiv Mirah has any more property? Maybe he gave it all away, and there is no property that's ben foreign, that's free property.
Right, but for the
But
fact
he hasn't proved anything. He was
Yes,
saying,
because
he was
for the
saying,
fact that he says there's an order, for the fact that he says there's an order, and he takes from the last guy before the guy before him, it's a raya that's how. In other words, if they wouldn't have any din of nechasim mishubadim, there shouldn't be any order. He should just take from whoever he wants. The fact that we say there's an order, it's a raya. That,
but it might be saying that if there's no free property, then there's an order. If there's free property. He's trying to prove that if there's free property, you have to take from the free property. Maybe in this case, the Shibra left no free property.
What, that if there is no free property? No, for the fact that he says there's an order, so right, there's a certain takana for them. We never said anything about an order for anybody, unless you say it's considered like nechasim mishubadim. If it's not considered like nechasim mishubadim, there shouldn't be an order because there's no takanas chachamim. The fact that we say there's an order, so right, there is a takanas chachamim. Where's the only place that we see that there's a takanas chachamim? By nechasim mishubadim.
Got it.
Ultimately, the Gemara does answer like what you're saying. We're only saying there's an order if the property is equal. If the property is equal, then it does make sense. Then ultimately, Gemara does say what you're saying. There is an order because the property is equal, so it's not fair to take from the guy before him. He can't just go and take from whoever he wants. There is an order in the gifts. It's only fair for him to take from the last guy. So the Gemara does say what you're saying, actually. Only if the property is not equal and the second guy got the baininess, then enochanami, then he would be able to go to the second guy, like you're saying. He would be able to go to the second guy. Bryce is only talking about where it's all equal. So then, of course, there's an order, and he doesn't have nechasim b'nei. Ultimately, actually, what you're saying is the answer of the Gemara. It's exactly what the Gemara answers. That there is an order. Okay. Okay, let's try to do this quickly because I have to go soon.
What does say ein hakanami means all the more?
This is the case. Ein hachanami. I'm not sure exactly how to translate it. Yes, hachinami, like this also. Okay. Ein meitzin lachilas peiris. We say that you're not allowed to take from the chasim mishubadim for peiris, to feed, to support the daughters and the wife and the woman and the wife, the widow. You can't take from the Yisraelim for that. From the chosim, which are mishubadim. From the chosim mishubadim. If he sold property, you don't take. Oh no! I'm sorry, I translated wrong. Lachilas peiris. The case it's a little confusing. Rashi said, if you sold a piece of property, and that piece of property has no. You had a piece of property that was stolen from you, and then the thief sold it to somebody else. A lot of chutzpah, and that other person invested a lot into making produce and everything grow. And then the person finally got it back through Bezdin, his property that was stolen from him. He takes everything. And what does the guy doesn't even get to harvest the field. He takes everything. So he has to pay the guy for his expenses. But what about the fact that the property became better, or the fact that the property is now has payers on it? He goes to the goizel, to the thief. He can't go to the original person who owned the field. He goes to the thief. when he goes to the thief to get paid back from this, he's only going to take from the thieves and the chasam b'nei chayrin from his unsold fields, but not from his sold fields. Not from his sold fields. Not from his nechasam mishubadim when he wants to get the payers and the shevach hakarka. What's the reason? Why not? L'chera, it's not fair. The guy's a thief. He sold him a property he didn't even own. So you should be able to get whatever you can take from him. Ula says in the name because it's not written down. It's nothing written down. Yeah, he wrote down the sale, the field. So for that, he's obviously going to get his money back, even from the chasam mishubadim, from the thief. But the part about the shevach and the payers that he caused to grow, that's not written down. That didn't even exist when he did the buy. What about the next case in the Mishnah? To feed the woman and her daughters and the girls. It's as if it's written, and there also we say don't take from the chasam mishubadim for them because it's in the ksuba. Those are in the ksuba. That was by the woman by Mezoyin Ishav Abanis, even though it is written, the Chacham were Mesakin, that it's only from Bnei Chayrin and not from Mishabadim, not to take from Mishabadim. And the reason is, for a different reason, because the reason is like this, because it's not ksuvin. It's not a set amount, so nobody's going to want to buy a field from a guy who has daughters, because he for all he knows, they're eventually going to take the field back away from him. And then where is he going to go to get repaid? What's he going to do? So because of that, the Chomer Mesakin, Mezoyin Ishav Abanis, it's only ksuvin for Bnei Chayrin and not for Mishabadim. Okay, so that's the first answer.
It shows by that answer is that it's never 100%. Okay, I get that the buyer is going to lose, but this way the wife and the daughters are going to lose, because if it's a smart Baal, he won't have any free fields. He'll have everything sold. There are some business people that are like they don't own anything.
It's his own daughters. Why would he do that to them?
Because he is what he is.
Right. You could have a guy who cheats the system. You're right. And then he doesn't want to leave anything for his kids. Like if he's upset at his kids or whatever, there's a way for him out. Like, where's he going to get the cash? I'll bury it in his grave with him, I guess. Or I'll spend it all before he dies. It's true.
There are some businessmen, they don't own anything.
Right. Ultimately, there's somebody losing out here. It's true. Nobody's going to be not everyone is going to be a winner. Rabbi Chanina Omar lefishein ksuvim. Chanina has a different answer. So the Rabbi Yochanan's answer is lefishein ksuvim. The payers are not ksuvim. It's not written down. The buying, when you bought the field from the thief, that was written down, but not the payers. So you can't take that from the chasam mishubadim. Chanina says because it's not kotzuv. It's not a set. It's not set. Okay. They asked on Rab Chanina, in order to take from the nechasam mishubadim, in order to take from somebody's sold field, if he owes you a debt, does it have to be a set amount and written? Maybe as long as it's set amount, even if it's not written down. Maybe he holds you can even take from milval peh from nechasam mishubadim. That's what it sounds like. Or is he adding an additional t'nai on what Rabbi Yochanan said? Is it an additional condition, or is he arguing with him? He says, as long as it's kotzuv, milval peh, which is kotzuv, you could take from the chasim, which is mishubadin. Toshma coming here. The Itmar was stated, someone who died and he left two daughters, Uvain, and a son. So the din is the daughters, they get mezainis, and they also get iser. They get a tenth of his property for their nadunya, for their dowry. I think they take their mezainis until they take the dowry. They get mezainis until the dowry. And once they take the dowry, they don't get mezainis anymore. So one of the daughters took her 10%. Below you speak a then the second girl, she didn't have a chance to take her 10%. She wasn't getting married yet, or she wasn't a begeris. It seems like you have either if you become a begeris or you want to get married. I'm not sure. The moment you're a begeris, it seems like you're already going to get your 10%. But she didn't get her 10% until the son died. So now the problem is like this. the whole property is now going to them for Yerusha. The whole estate is going to the two girls. So the first girl already got her 10%. Does the second girl also get her 10%, and only then are we going to split the property into two? Or do we say that they split it and she lost her 10%? Rabbi Yochanan said, Shniya Vitra, the second girl is Mevateret. She gives up on her 10%. And I'll be ready very soon. I just have to get to 2 dots. Shniya Vitra, the second girl loses her 10%. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Why did she lose it? The whole takana of the chum was in order for them to have money to be able to get married. Here she's getting 50%, so she doesn't get the 10%. Chanina said like this: even if the brother sold the property, he turned it into nechasim mishubadim, and she needs her 10%. She'll take her 10% from the nechasim mishubadim, but not from Mazonis, right? We already said in the Mishnah, not from Mazonis. She doesn't get, if he sold the property, here would be a good case where he games the system, maybe more than the father. If the son sells the property, then she's not going to get her Mazonis anymore. It's not fair. If he sells the whole estate, she's not going to get her Mazonis anymore. That is an easy way to game the system. So she's not getting Mazonis, but she'll still get her parnasa, so she'll take it away from the Lekayches. I personally would have a hard time sleeping if there was young orphan girls and I'm buying a field and you're taking away from their mazonis when you buy the field because they're relying on the field. Anyway, whatever. It's interesting. So
The way around that is not to tell the person.
Right. Yeah.
You don't tell the buyer.
You don't tell the buyer. Right.
He doesn't know.
And then he cheats from the girls. I mean, obviously they'll take the money that he got from the sale, but if he spent the money, whatever, yeah, it's the easy way. You could game the system. Definitely could game the system. Obviously, for that, the Chacham can give special knossim, whatever they could. I don't know. I'm not sure. Depending on the tzarech, I'm not sure what they would do. I have to look in the dinim. You're going to say that she's giving up on her Isser. She could even take from the Lekoiches, from the buyers. She could take her 10%. So she's not even going to get. You're saying she gave it up when she's getting a Rusha? So now the Gemara analyzes from what he said. Parnoso, the make it skaitzo, michtav lechtiva. Parnoso, the 10% is make it skaitz. The mציאה, but it's not written, and she's allowed to take it. So we see from here that Reb Chanina will hold a milval peh, which is make it skaitzo, is he's able to take it from the lekayches. She can take it from the lekayches. Says the Gemara, Shiny Parnosa Kivin the Islay Kolo, Commandik Siva Dami. Parnosa is different. It's not a regular milval peh. Everybody knows the moment the father dies, everybody knows the girls take 10%. So it's as if they'll know about it. Mazonis, however, it's not kotzuv. So the chum, because it's not a set amount, the chum we're I guess maybe lenient depending on for who. Strict for the girls and lenient for the buyer. So that's different. It's a milval peh. The Isla Kolo is different, but a regular milval peh, even if it's mixed, even if it's meikatz kaitzo, even if it's set, Rabbi Chanina will agree that you cannot take from the mishubadim, the chasam mishubadim, from the property that was sold. Maseches Rav Huna bar Manoach, Mesu b'nei Seyan, Mesu b'nei Seyan. Nizon is a complicated case. Someone who marries a woman, Rashi says, and you agreed with her, and she agreed with him that she came into the marriage of the daughter. And he agreed to sustain her daughter for 5 years. And then they get divorced within the 5 years. And she gets married to somebody else, and she also makes the same tonight with him. Even though he's divorced, he still has to sustain her daughter for 5 years, and the other guy does. So one of them is going to give actual food, the other one is going to give the value of food, because that's a tonight. So tonight was a condition. What if both husbands die? Both of her husbands died. So then they're going to take from the chasam b'nei chayrin, because it's considered mozain. Meisu b'nei zayin nizayis b'chasam b'nei chayrin. They're going to take from the chasam b'nei chayrin. V'hi nizayis b'nei chasam mishubadim. Okay, I'm sorry. If my mistake. If the husband dies, so then their own daughters are only going to get from Nechasim B'nei Chayrim because it's considered Mazonis, like we said in our Mishnah. Their own daughters are only going to get from the property that hasn't been sold. But this stepdaughter, this girl that she brought into the marriage, she has a separate Tanai, a separate condition. She's going to get Nechasim Mishubadim because she's considered to be owned a debt. So we see clearly, even if it's a milva peh, here was just a Tanai, it was a condition, it was pasquima. It's not written down because it's set a set amount for 5 years. I guess maybe by the other girls, it's not until they become a begaris. Maybe it's forever until they get married. So it's not make its kites here because it's for 5 years. It's considered a set amount. We see, even though it's not written down, it's all peh. Still, she's able to take from the chasam mishubadim. We see clearly.
How do you know it's not written down, David?
Because it says poskuima. It doesn't say they wrote it in a shtar. It's very, very little written in the Gemara. I'm saying a lot of it is in Rashi. So the Gemara answers, here we're talking about that it was written down. There was a kinyan. Rashi says, Stam kinyan l'ksiva, even though it doesn't say it was written down, it's as if it was written down. There was a kinyan, so it was probably written down. So therefore, it's not a milva pet. You don't have a raya. If so, his regular girls also. If we're talking about there was a kinyan, why wouldn't they do a kinyan for the girls that will be born in the marriage? Says the Gemara, he made a kinyan only for the girl that she's bringing the marriage, but not the girls that will be born to her. My Piska, why is this so clear cut? It says, why is it so clear cut that obviously she will make a kinyan only for the girls she's bringing in the marriage and not for the girls that will be born to her? So the Gemara answer is very obvious. She should have a b'shas kinyan mahani kinyan. Her daughter that was alive, so a kinyan will help for her. But a daughter that wasn't there, she was not born yet, it's not going to help. So if you do a kinyan, then you'll also have a shtar. But the kinyan will only help for the daughter who's alive, the one who is being brought into the marriage. You could also say, well, why can't you say a case where the daughter that was born to her is alive? Let's say he divorced her and remarried her, and it's his own daughter who's alive. Who says she's not alive? It's possible that she is alive. So why are you going to differentiate between his own daughter and the daughter she's bringing the marriage? So the Gemara says like this: his daughter, it's through Tanai Bezdin. She gets food because of Bezdin, not because of their own kinyan. Kinyan's not going to help. But her own daughter, it's a private deal. It's nothing to do with Bezdin. So then the kinyan will help. So Gemara asks, the obvious question, just because Bezdin made a Tanai for her, she's not able to strengthen the Tanai to say that she's going to get, you write it down, and she's going to get, you can't do a special Tanai for her for 5 years. That she'll get to make it kites, to make it a set amount, so that she'll get from Nechasim Mishubadim. Let's say you want to strengthen it, and she wants to take care of her daughter. She loves her daughter. She loves her children. She wants to make sure they're taken care of after death. So the Gemara, the reason is that Tanai Bezin does weaken her because we're worried that maybe she took money because she's relying on Tanai Bezin. So therefore, we're not going to allow her to get from the Chasam Mishubadim. But the other girl that she doesn't have a Tanai Bezin with her, we're not worried that she took from a bag of money. Okay. So we don't have a raya that even if it's not written, because we could say it is written because there's a kinyan, and the kinyan will only help for the girl who is brought into the marriage, but not his own daughters. Last raya toshma this that we say in the Mishnah. This that we say in the Mishnah that you don't pay for shevach karka, you don't pay for the property improving and the beiris. So only if you took it back, the guy took back his field, and only then did the shevach of the rishon come into play. But if the guy who was working on the field, did the shevach happen, and then you took it, go from nechasim mishubadim. The guy is going to be able to take from nechasim mishubadim, from the property that the thief stole. So what do we see? The whole reason is because leikodamu. It's only because it didn't come first.
Oh.
It's only because the shevach didn't happen yet. But if the shevach had happened yet, if the property had already improved before he took his property back, So then it will work. Toisu says this is a raya for Reb Chanina. This is to understand Reb Chanina. This raya. We see that even if as long as it's kotzuv, as long as it's a set amount that we see what it is before he took the field back, he's gonna be able to take from the chasam mishubadim. The person who had the lekech rishon. So the Gemara says, I guess you could have a lekech sheni, someone who's buying it from the original person who owned the field. Maybe that's why it's called the lekech sheni. So the Gemara answers, it's a machlekes tonight. The Tanya in Metzin lachilas pedis l'shevach hakoysim zayin yishav abonis m'nechasam mishubadim. We don't take for pedis, like we said, pedis are if you're getting your field back or you sold it to somebody else, and there's a thief who sold it to another guy. L'shevach hakoysim for the property being improved. Zayin yishav for the woman and the daughter is getting their mazin from nechasam mishubadim from fields which were sold b'tikkun oilam l'fishay ksuvim because they're not written. What's it? It's not because it's tikkun oilam. It's not kotzuv. In other words, you don't even need to make a tikkun. It's obvious because it's not kotzuv. So he only cares about ksuvim. He doesn't care about kotzuv, according to Rabbi Yossi. It's interesting. The halach is not like him, obviously, but he only cares about kotzuv, not kotzuv. But according to the Rabbi Yochanan, he cares about kosov. Only by a woman and her daughters, the chachamim, the whole thing is the Zakanas chachamim, they said she's only going to get from the chasim b'nei chayrin, and not mishubadim. But if it would be a regular regular business deal, even if it's not kosov, if it's written, then they'll be able to take from the chasim mishubadim. If it's not written, they won't. That's what it seems like to me. Okay. The next is a little bit complicated, so I think we'll stop here. We'll finish. We'll do the Bavli with the Yerushalmi tomorrow on the Mishnah. We'll finish the Mishnah. Maybe start the next Mishnah.
Well, what do you make of all those demonstrations in Eretz Yisrael?